Hi, everyone, and welcome to another wonderful live stream. Uh, Today is going to be great, I believe. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me from across the world, from Europe, North America, South America, Asia, Africa, different countries in Africa. Crazy things have been happening. Crazy things have been happening. Man, it was so many crazy things have happened that I had a hard time picking the topic to discuss on this live stream. On this live stream, we are going to react to Destiny's appearance on Middle Ground, where they did black conservatives versus white liberal. Very interesting conversation. Some feisty moment. I watched it when it first came out. Like the few hours after it came out, I was watching it and I was like, "Oh, this would be great to react to," and that was what I had in my mind, like as far back as last week. But I think last week or on Sunday, whenever this came out. Then Monday, something else happened. Tuesday, something else happened. Wednesday, something else happened. I was supposed to go live on Wednesday, but I couldn't because I had a couple of issues health-wise. And so, yeah, that was a lot of things were just happening. I was like, which one do I react to? Do I react to this? Do I react to that? Do I react to this one? So many things were just happening. But after much deliberation, I decided that I'll be reacting to what I decided I'll react to as far back as Sunday, I guess. And yeah, but let me just give you a couple of things that have been happening that I've been noticing happening around the world. First, if somebody who sent me a direct message on Instagram to the link of a particular video that is up on YouTube, and it was a very disturbing video, and the video was talking about Nigeria. So the person sent me a link to it, and I was like, okay. I watched the video. It was a short, a YouTube short. I finished seeing it, and I was like, this is disturbing. This is annoying, and I wanted to react to it, make a short about it. And I finished recording the shot, finished recording it. I even replied the person who sent me the message. I was like, on my Instagram, I replied and I was like, thank you for sending me this. I've reacted to this and I intend to post it, tomorrow, which was like the next day after the day the person sent it to me. But before I decided to publish the video, I decided to, because the shot was like a snippet of a longer video on YouTube. So the content creator made the shot and then the shot was to lead people to the longer video. So I decided to go watch the longer video. And it was more disturbing. It's as if the shot was not disturbing enough, the longer video was more disturbing. And it had a part two. And I watched the part two, and the part two was even more disturbing. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I cannot talk about all the disturbing elements of this content in just one shot, one minute shot. It's not possible, right? So I cannot just put out this shot. Of course, I'm going to make a shot about it, but I have to make a longer content about it as well, so that people can see exactly my entire reaction to the whole video. It was annoying. And I was thinking about it. I was like, should I do it as a live stream? Should I react to this video as a live stream? And I was like, if I was to give more like an unrehearsed, unscripted response, it will not land well. I felt it will not land well because I would just be speechless and filled with anger. The clip is really annoying. The video I'm talking about is really annoying, guys. Like, when they say something is annoying, it's annoying. And what is even annoying is that it hits close to home because the person was making a video about Nigeria. So it was really annoying. A lot of misconception, a lot of mischaracterization, a lot of things were just being said, and I was like, well, at the end of the day, I decided that I'm going to make a video about it, like one of my long form videos, like the one I made about Gabon. I'm going to make a similar video like that, but about the clip itself, the video itself on YouTube. So it will probably come out on Saturday, on Sunday, or next week, but it will come out soon. So that's what I decided, and then I decided that, okay, since I cannot react to that because the live reaction will just get me upset, I will not be able to flesh out my thought very well, and I will just come off as somebody who is triggered, like people like to say on social media. I decided that I would just react to, what we are reacting to today. So that's how we came to where we are now. Okay? How is everyone in the chat? This is Kale, say praying for good health. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is from Daniela Utomi. Are you relative to Pat Utomi? Sorry, I'm just I'm just acting like one of those now. Are you a relative of Pat Utomi? Whenever you have a popular the video is about somebody who came to Nigeria. He does this thing on his channel where he goes to dangerous places, right? To, make content about those dangerous places, about him surviving in those dangerous places. And one of those places he went to was Makoko in Lagos, Nigeria. That was where he went to. And what he was just saying in the video, we are just like, if it is not ignorant, it is just heavily stereotypical. If it is not heavily stereotypical, it was just downright offensive. Like, and the funny thing is that he was making it for content. To him, everything he was talking about was just content creation. But to me, I was like, this is insulting. And another annoying part of the whole video is that I went to the comment section to see if there are people who felt it the same way I felt. And none. Everybody was like, wow, great content. Even some Nigerians were like, yeah, as a Nigerian, I endorse this. And I was like, what are you endorsing? This person is reducing Nigeria to a caricature, and he's doing that just for clicks. And you are happy about it? Like, you are happy about it? What? This is wrong. And there are so many things wrong about the video. So I will take my time and just list. I have a list of things that I found problematic about the video. And I'm going to highlight them. And maybe the guy in his, may just be an innocent content creator who just want to make something for shock value, because that's what, drives traffic on YouTube. Everybody making content for shock value. I get it. But, man, let me not even start saying so many of the things that will show up in the video that I'm planning to make. Let's just, wait for the video to come out. But just know that this video I'm talking about is really, really annoying. Yeah, the video I'm talking about is different from the one we are reacting to, okay? This is one that I was hoping we will react to today. But what we are reacting to today is black conservatives versus white liberal. But the one I'm talking about, that I was just finished talking about, is a different video that I was considering for today. So, yeah. So, without saying too much, let's get... Okay, one more thing before we get into the video. Guys, as somebody who has seen the video, I want to tell you, all right? Spoiler alert, okay? Destiny did well. Like, I did not expect that I was going to say this, but Destiny... Someone else was more obnoxious than Destiny. And it was surprising to see. Like, somebody outdid, I don't know if that's the right word, outdid Destiny in being obnoxious and annoying. And Destiny came out as more reasonable, more sensible, as in I was impressed with how he, laid out his argument. Some people were really like the bad characters when they come to this debate, but those people were not, Destiny was not one of them. And that's wonderful, So it made me like him. As I watched it and I saw myself liking Destiny. I was like, this guy is cool. I'm beginning to like him, But people are multifaceted, so they have the annoying side, they have the nice side. And I'm very sure there are so many people who enjoy some of the things I say and find some of the things I say annoying. Is how it is. So without saying too much, let's get into the video.
I was chosen to read the following prompt. White Americans have way more advantages than Black Americans.
I think I'm a rarity here.
It would seem so.
Do white Americans have more advantages because they're white, or do just white Americans have advantages because of historic factors? I think that people want to argue at the end of the day over whether it's because you're white or not. I think that the answer is because you're white in the past, and that's how it kind of carries over to today. Even in times of the United States history where black people tried to build wealth, with
There's, I know many conservatives will not agree with this point, but there is meat to that argument. I know so many people are quick to dismiss it, but there is meat to the argument. The meat, not the meat being some white people have an advantage, but the problem with the phrasing or the phraseology or sometimes what that argument tries to allude to is that every white person, because of historical factor, has an advantage. But clearly not every white person. Okay? Not every white person. Some white people, some white families have an advantage that was passed down to them due to racial discrimination that happened in the past. There are instances of that in the US. But it becomes a problem when people now generalize it and make it look like every white person is a benefactor of historic atrocity, which is not true. Not every white person is benefiting. Not every white person. Even Destiny will not say he's one of those white people benefiting from historic advantages that his ancestors had over black people. I don't think he will say that. There are so many white people who have had it worse in life. Some of them grew up in trailer parks and stuff like that. They've seen horrible things. You see them in movies, you read about them in the news. Not everybody is having a blast simply because they are black. And their ancestors, probably handed over to them like a large train of riches from, proceeds of exploitation and discrimination. But some people, that is their story. And you cannot just completely overrule that. Some people, that is their story, but it does not apply to everybody. So yeah, to some degree, some white people have, what they have today can be traced to something they benefited from that was as a result of discrimination that black people had to suffer. So, it goes without saying, it's a logical argument. You don't need to collect 3 million data and look at statistics and be like, this confirms. It goes without saying. It's not an illogical statement to make. The problem is when you now generalize it and say every white person or white people, as if it's like there's a huge majority, as if every white person is wealthy. When, at the end of the day, a huge majority of people, white, black, whatever the color of your skin, are really struggling to survive. So
the Tulsa riots and everything, where that this wealth has been destroyed. And something that's upsetting to me is when conservatives talk about how we can't blame the past for what's happening in the present. That is true to some extent, but then the next breath they'll talk about how important it is to have dual parent households, how important it is to have a strong family, to have responsibility passed on from parent to child. And we've seen in the past that because of racial issues, that process has been severely disrupted.
No, Destiny, no. Having two-parent household has nothing to do with historic atrocities. If there's any historic atrocity that has created the single-parent household, that is not just a black, that's not just a black issue at this point, but now, from all indication, an American issue, is the welfare state, okay, and the rate of divorce that you have now in the West, which is due to so many factors. I don't think historic atrocities have anything to do with that. Now, you can blame historic atrocities for what I would call social anxiety, which so many black people, experience today. Like, when you look at how black people behave in media, how they speak, how they talk about something, you notice that there's this social anxiety that has been passed on to them from their parents that make them weary of the system, weary of the West, weary of a white person, and feel, even when nothing is happening to them, they feel this like something is actually happening to them. What they call trauma. I don't like that phrase, but, trauma it is. This passed on trauma. That could be something you can say, okay, yes, and that is a psychological factor that is also limiting many people in the black community. This feeling of inferiority complex that you can often see manifest in different ways is real. Even though black people are blacks in America are seen as those with highest form of self-esteem, but despite the high form of self-esteem and high self-esteem rather, not high form of self-esteem, high self-esteem and confidence that you see among black people, they still walk around with a chip on their shoulder with this kind of anxiety. And you see it manifest in so many ways. Like, oftentimes they feel the need to prove themselves, the need to exempt themselves, the need to see themselves as victims. It's kind of something that is handed over to them. And some of it has to do with also the education system, which kind of reinforces those beliefs instead of questioning them and trying to help black people move from it. We now have an education system that reinforces that. So is something you can say is historic. But is it like there's some kind of financial advantage historically that has led to black families not being intact? No, that is not the case.
Funny thing is that agreeing with all these things is when I did my research when I was younger, which arrived me to my standpoint of being a conservative, because I believed it was racist, Democrat, liberal ideologies and policies.
Like this, this black guy came out swinging with labels, racial, Democrat, liberal. He made his partisan fresh out the gate, and I that's not good. You know, that's not good. This is somebody who is loaded with talking points.
Dating all the way back
Even
to
though
the
I agree with
1800s,
some of
all the
them,
way up
but
to the 1960s, and then the purported big switch. But I think it was more so when Democrats decided to be a bit more cloak and dagger about their true opinions of black people and be more secretive and more, oh, we want to help you by doing these things and seeing them as inferior.
Doing what things?
Affirmative action, welfare, all sorts of things that eventually ruin our culture and place us where we are now.
So
but I want to get back to the history of it, because we're talking about.
Well, I just want to make sure we're clear. Giving
this if you've not seen this, just know that it's going to, if some part of it is going to be a crap show, it's just the people yelling at each other. And this guy, Alec, anyways, let's just keep watching. You'll see.
money hurt them, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, giving them, because if your father's out of the home, that's when we give you the money. If you're living in this housing,
so then give them the money while the dad's
rent-free,
well, then give them the money while the dad's in the home.
If you're working this amount of hours and getting less than this amount of dollars, you're getting money from the government. Yes, it is incentivizing.
You're throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
I don't even know what that means in this scenario, because yes,
you're
okay, you want to talk about throwing babies out with the bathwater? Margaret Sanger went.
Drama, ladies and gentlemen.
To exterminate the black race because she thought they were weeds. So yeah, we can literally talk about throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
How did we get to, oh boy.
That's what Margaret Sanger, that's what Democrat policies wanted to do to my people. So that's why I feel so strongly about it, because it is these policies that date back centuries that were built off of the death and poverty of my people.
Let's take a breath. So,
I don't like people using that word, my people. Anyways, the truth is the guy is making a lot of points, but it has nothing to do with the conversation, and it just seems like, the guy is just rappy. He looks like Candace Owens a lot, like, and you're like, calm down, calm down. This is not about winning a debate. This is middle ground. It's about having a conversation,
I'm breathing.
Okay.
So a lot of babies aren't, but I am, sadly.
Jesus Christ. This guy came out swinging. He came out swinging.
I don't know what that means. When I say throw the baby out,
you know what it means. You know what it means.
Bathwater. You want to completely get rid of welfare, okay? Or at least I don't want to put that on you. You haven't said that, but the conservative apparatus does, clearly. So giving money to a group of people does not hurt them.
I mean, sure.
It does. You see, this is a mindset that so many people have, that giving free money to people doesn't hurt them. It does. It depends on who you are giving that money to. People should stop having that idea that just give them handouts is a good thing. It doesn't hurt anybody. It does. If you give a junkie who is homeless money, you are digging his grave. If that guy overdoses, it's your money. There are so many instances of you helping people that is actually you destroying them. And when you give money in a way that incentivize people to continue in a bad behavior, it is going to destroy them. When you giving people money is another form of you encouraging bad behavior, those people are going to be destroyed because of the very money you are giving them. Free money is not always free. Sometimes it comes back and it hurts the very people that you give it to. So no, giving money to people hurts them. It depends on how you give it to them. There are people who have died in stadiums because somebody was spraying money and they were scrambling to get them. They died in a stampede. This happens all the time. Like this idea that if you give people money, it's not going to hurt them. I mean, who's going to get hurt by a handout? Jesus Christ, there are so many ways a handout will hurt people. A handout can promote a culture of laziness. A handout can promote a culture of fatherlessness. A handout can promote a culture of overindulgence. A handout can promote so many bad habits that the person who gave out the handout did not intend for. That is why I'm a firm believer in the phrase, give a man a fish, he will live for a day. Teach a man to fish, he will live forever. I am more interested in people who want to show you how to make it than people who just want to give you handouts. People who want to really fix the problem and people who want to just put a Band-Aid on it. When you give out handouts, you're just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. You're not fixing it. You're not even dressing the wound. And you wonder why it's going to get worse.
You're talking about a lottery. You just
Literally
take
can't.
money, but
Yes.
there are strings
Take money.
attached to that money.
Take all the
there
money.
are strings attached
Give
to
them
that
millions. Make them all millionaires. I don't care. Giving
And that is the problem with this guy, Alec. He doesn't care, but he claims to care. Like he feels some things are just worth doing no matter the ramification. Just do it. There is no harm in doing it. That is his philosophy in life. Just do it.
money to black people does not hurt them.
And that has
thinking
not
that-
happened, though. That has not happened.
What do you mean?
That has not happened. It hasn't been a
You're saying
reparations. It hasn't been this
so
or that.
what
It has
you're
been a
saying
welfare program,
welfare
Great
was
Societies
designed.
Act that
Welfare
was built
was-
off of the idea of, hey, we get these families split up. We get
Now, there is a conspiracy element to what Chandler is saying that I don't agree with. There's this conspiracy element to it, which is like they gave black families this money because they wanted to split them. I don't think that's why, the welfare state was created or why affirmative action was created. I strongly believe that those who were pushing for these policies had good intentions. They had really good intentions. And that's why I kind of disagree with him. Because he make it look like these people were very nefarious, had nefarious intentions. Many of them had very good intentions. Many of them meant well, right? And that is why people say the road to hell. I say the road to hell. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? Many of them had good intentions, but when you don't implement something well, when you come up with a bad idea, no matter how good your intentions are, good intentions are not what make things work. Appropriate planning, understanding, accountability, reviewing, getting feedback, and ensuring that whatever it is you are doing is not hurting people is what is going to make you work. Not good intentions. Good intentions are not good enough.
So then
people
let
living
them
here-
keep the family together and keep all the money.
I mean,
There-
If both of them cannot happen. I know some people say it's a false dichotomy, but it's not. You cannot pay people you cannot pay a woman for being a single mother and expect her to not be a single mother. And then say, oh, well, if they have two parents in the house, so then we are going to give them money. On what basis then are you going to be giving out the money? On what basis are you going to give her the handout? Okay, think about it. Someone loses his job. And you're like, okay, because you lose the job, we are going to create a safety net for you. And under that safety net, we are going to provide you with this, and this. Question is, if that safety net is enough to make that man survive and not be homeless and not go hungry, what will be the incentive for that man to work? And if the money is going to increase, if the man is not in the house, what will be the incentive of the woman having him around? It's simply how policies work. And I'm not saying everybody who divorced, got rid of their husbands and became single mothers did that because of this. I'm just saying this is a factor for why they remain single mothers or even why they became one. This is a factor. The laziness you see in certain cultures, in Nigeria, I want to use Nigeria as a good example. In Nigeria, there's a culture in a particular region that encourages begging. And in that region, you see a lot of beggars. I mean, you see a lot of beggars. People who are able-bodied, and yet they are begging. Children begging. And it is because they live in a culture that encourages begging. And Nigerians in the chat know the culture I'm talking about and know what is in that culture that encourages that begging. So yes, you cannot have, whether it is a culture or whether it is a law that encourages people to do a particular thing and expect that it will not yield that result. You cannot. You cannot. Let me go to people in the chat. I'm talking a lot. Let me look at those in the chat. This is from Chuku Igwe. I said this is the bag. He said this is the bargain the white liberals offer. We will throw you a bone like affirmative action if you just let us reduce you to your race so that we can take moral authority for helping you. It is a trap. A mouse trap. Okay. That's a good take. And he also said, this is another message another comment, which I think is, Chukwu Igwe really gives a lot of insightful comments, and I really appreciate those. He said, liberals encourage black dependency on social welfare program because to the extent that there is black dependency on the government program, this increases their political power. Very true. Very true. You know, and I won't say liberals in general. Many of the liberals promote some of these policies out of the kindness of their hearts. Many of them are just being nice. They feel it's a good thing. Then the government apparatus that is the front for every liberal agenda, those ones are the ones I believe have those intentions that are promoting this for that very reason. You know, so because I don't want us to be those people who simply say, okay, this is exactly what every liberal has in mind when they push certain agendas. Some of them really don't have that in mind. Some of them really think they are helping. They really do, you know. And some of them just want to help. The problem with so many, which is one thing that I call a major problem in society in general, is that people are so quick to quickly fix a problem without really trying to understand the problem. And whenever you try to quickly fix a problem without understanding the problem, most times you make the problem worse. So you see a liberal, a white liberal who recognizes a problem in the black community, and he's like, oh yeah, let's just give them money, we'll fix it. Or do this one, we'll fix it. Or the government says, oh, you see this problem in the black community, this is how we'll fix it. And they don't take the time to really understand the nature of the problem, really understand what exactly is the root of this problem, and how then do we get to solve it. Instead, they just we notice something looks like a problem, we rush straight to offering solution. And sometimes, most times, the solution ends up making the problem worse. And many nefarious actors take advantage of this kindness that people have in their hearts to push certain things and push certain agendas. So yeah, we proceed.
I guess so, but I guarantee you there's
so.
no way that
Why would you
happen.
not advocate for that?
So in your, I guess, research of like history of this country and everything, do you find like the Reconstruction era and like the failures of like what it wanted to be and then what it ended up being, and then which led into, had downstream effects to enter into the Jim Crow era, and you have policies like redlining that influence how schools are funded. The downstream effects of slavery, do you think put black people as generally in a worse off position than white Americans?
I think generation by generation, the effects of slavery have been diluted.
The truth is, black. Like if you listen to Thomas Sowell, he explained this very well. He said, according to him, blacks in America, we are doing well after slavery than we are doing after, like, currently, like they were doing in the 80s. They were doing better after slavery. After slavery, the rate of single parents in the black community was less than it is like after the welfare state was created. So, no, I don't think what we are seeing in black household and black communities are effect of slavery. Like this is the effect of slavery. No, I think. And can we be honest? Can we all be honest with ourselves? Like, how many years was it? And Western society, I'm not saying America is perfect. They have done so many things, but how many years has it been? And yet you have people today who have no idea what slavery is. They claim they do, but they don't. And yet claiming to be suffering, the effect of it to me that's ridiculous. Like, it's been long. It's been long. The effect of slavery, like he said, should have been diluted at this point. It is. I will believe so. And you have no reason to blame slavery for anything today. And I mean slavery of the past. I cannot imagine how the fact that 200 years ago, your ancestors were slaves, is the reason why today you cannot become the person you dream of becoming, or make it in America. When there are many people who come into America as migrants and still flourish, looking like you. So, no. The only effect of slavery is psychological. It is more psychological. The problem of slavery right now that you see in America is more psychological than it is economical or social. I think it's more psychological. There is a psychological effect of slavery. And that is something, like I always say, that is something that the government cannot help you with. That is something that another white person cannot help you with. That's something you have to fix yourself.
But generation by generation, the effects of racism, welfare-based policies, and things of that nature became even more great. So in the 1880s or so, when we had our first black members of Congress, which were indeed Republicans, I think that was a great start for things. But obviously, we had terrible things that happened, like the Tulsa massacre, among black people being chased out of their homes by the KKK.
Sure.
All funded by the Democrat Party. All.
See, before we go back to here, look at this comment. It said, "Listen to this brainwashed, colonized African Negro. Face in palm." That is a very sound argument. Ray Ray, right? That's your name. Ray Ray. That's a very sound argument. Listen to this brainwashed, colonized African Negro. There is no way I can come to the conclusions that I'm coming to except I am brainwashed and I am a colonized African Negro. You understand? Is you, on the other hand, who, I don't know what color of your skin is, you, on the other hand, who believe what you believe is because you are not brainwashed and because you are not colonized. That is very interesting, And I guess with that, you debunk every of the logical argument I will make in my reaction. There is no. Oh, it's well. These are the kind of comments I say every time I talk about like black relation, racism, colonialism, and stuff. Like whenever I talk about it, people are like, no, yeah, because I'm so if I'm not angry about it, then I'm not fully representing my ancestors. If I'm not angry and upset, then I'm not, no. It's just wonderful.
Supported by the Democrat
Okay,
Party.
well, I mean, I need to stop you there. Can you attribute not to the party, but to the ideology? Because I think when you think, regardless of whatever the party switch was, traditionally conservative values did not, that's more aligned with, more racist policies in this
very
country.
difficult to compare 2020's conservatism to 1880s conservatism. Oh, I was loving the 1v4.
So personally, I feel like there's really only one thing that white people have a true advantage over black people with, and it's that white people are less likely to be forced into a box. It happens with black people onto other black people, but it especially happens with white liberals onto black conservatives,
Exactly.
where we are told that we are supposed to think a certain way, be a certain way, and if we're not, then we're called all these names like etc.
Like
and the worst of all is
the guy in the
bootlicker.
comments.
Because I hate when a white liberal tells me as a black man that I'm a bootlicker. Because then I ask, whose boot am I licking? Because you're telling me as a white person that me as a black person that I'm licking your boot because I don't think in this box that you want me to frame my mentality in. That to me is real racism. And that's what we need to stop allowing to happen to us, because black people are so quick now to not branch out and to have new ways of thinking, or to go into careers like agriculture and these other career paths that black people don't typically get into. It's not because of racism stopping them from getting in there. It's because we're told for so long that you have to follow this path and you have to think a certain way.
Exactly, which is what I say. It's more mental. It's more psychological. The real oppression that you see is more psychological. Is what you've been told by other black people, by also some people, white people around you. Is what you've been told repeatedly. This is who you are. This is how you should behave. This is how you should think. You shouldn't consider this. You should never consider this. Believe that you are helpless. Believe that you are a victim. Believe that you are oppressed. If you don't believe any of these things, then you are a colonized, expressed. You are a colonized Negro. You are brainwashed. If you don't believe and accept this narrative that something is holding you down. And I think there is no greater damaging message than to tell somebody that you are being held down. it is damaging to make people feel this demoralized. It is damaging to make them feel this helpless. During slavery, I will bet that during slavery, many black people were more hopeful than so many black people today. Because when you tell people that there is a system bringing you down and there's nothing you can do to escape that system, and it's systemic and we need to help you, whatever thing you come up with, you condition them to feel helpless. You condition them to feel hopeless. And one thing nobody should ever lose in life is hope. Once you lose that, you are not, the willingness to try, the desire to make effort is gone. You are going to resort to, nefarious activities, life of crime, looting and robbing. And because that is the life why I'm doing it, because my ancestors were slaves. Why I'm doing this is because America has not treated me fairly. Why I'm doing this is, you list your group of reasons because you've been conditioned to think and reason that way. And when you see a black person who has not been conditioned like that, and you put him in America, you see them do well. You see them do better. That shows you that more of the problem is psychological. It's what people have been programmed and told to think, how they've been told to think and what they've been told to think. And it's dangerous. Is really dangerous.
I think America is a great place for a black person. I think I'm an American. Anything that's available to you is available to me and mine.
I've personally never experienced white people having way more privileges than me. Like, I'm sure you could find certain institutions where black people are treated differently, but in general, I don't think that I've missed out on anything because of being black. And if anything, it's given me more of a voice because people will want to hear what I say now because I'm black. So if anything, I have more of a platform now just on the basis of being a black conservative and saying what's not popular than I would if I was just a white person who was also conservative.
I agree with the Supreme Court's decision to end affirmative action.
I think, I'm not going to start. Someone else can start. Sorry.
I think affirmative action has served its purpose. I think that it was necessary for a particular time. And I think that every black person knows how to get into college. You can pull out the names, the Oprah, President Obama. You can pull out the head of Time Warner was black man, the Forbes was black man. We know what to do now. We don't need affirmative action anymore. And to me, affirmative action is offensive sometimes, especially nowadays, because I have 6 children and 2 boys, 4 girls. And all of them went to Harvard and Columbia and this one and that one. And it breaks my heart to think that they accomplished that goal of getting into these institutions just because of the color of their skin.
I can definitely say that it creates a lot of tension when you have affirmative action. I remember
you are reducing people's accomplishment when you treat them like that. When it reduces their accomplishment. You don't know, why did I make it? Did I make it because I was good, or did I make it because I was black? Or did I make it because I'm good, or did I make it because I'm black? What is the reason? Like, it's not a good thinking like that is not helpful. It's not helpful. Another thing about it, which we've talked about before, is one thing about affirmative action or quota system like we do in Nigeria is that you put people in a position where they are likely to fail, which I think one of them is going to explain perfectly.
My first week at the University of Illinois, I was sitting with some classmates, and a white student turned to me and jokingly like, "Hey Xavier, did you just attach a smiley face when you applied for this college?" And I started asking what he meant, and he said to me that he was like, "You're black, I'm assuming you had decent grades. You could have just attached a smiley face and you would have gotten into the university." So I was livid by that, and I went off. I started naming all of my accomplishments, and I felt so confident only for about an hour. Because then an hour later, I started saying to myself, like, wow, did I actually earn my way in here? I started to have this insecurity. And I started wondering to myself, did I earn this position myself, or did my ancestors' suffering earn this for me?
And two, I've seen it in the sense of like affirmative action taking away from other people who are minorities. Like I had a friend who was Asian and he in high school and he really wanted to go to MIT. That was his dream school. He interned there. He was super like prepared to go there and he didn't get in. And you can only assume that it was because of affirmative action because they have such a large Asian population that they want to admit other people.
Yeah, I was going to actually argue that it's more racist nowadays because it excludes so many Asian Americans from getting into universities who do deserve a spot and they can't get in because of affirmative action, which again, like you were saying, was necessary at the time.
Yeah.
But now it's like anybody, if you have the skills to do it and you're in America, you can get in.
I don't think affirmative action is the worst thing, considering all the different types or aspects of a background you might take into account when somebody's getting into college, whether they were in certain clubs, you know, Boy Scouts, what type of classes they took, that might not be available to everybody. I don't think that factoring in the affirmative action is necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like because of everything you guys have said, the optics behind it are so horrible today that even if it is slightly beneficial in the long run for certain people, I think we can probably refocus most of that into figuring out like the class that people come from, the neighborhoods, the backgrounds or whatever, without it having to necessarily target race. The only thing that I kind of wonder now that it's gone is instead of a black person being in school thinking like, man, am I here because I'm an affirmative action?
I don't even want it to be based on class. Because if it is based on class, someone still gets to ask himself the question, am I here because I deserve this, or am I here because I am poor? It should not be based on anything other than let's see your grade. This is what we require, that anybody can fulfill. If you meet the requirements, you get in. If you don't meet the requirements, you get out. Oh, how will poor people be able to do it? Well, the thing about affirmative action is that you're trying to fix a problem at the end, at the late stage. Like once someone is about to enter the university and you are like want to help this person, you're already late. If the person cannot, get the particular grade or whatever that is required, and you're like, we'll give the person affirmative action and then the person will be able to cope with others, you're arriving to a problem late. So late. You should have been there when the person was in school. When the person was in, grade school, high school, whatever it is. You should have been there then. Give the person quality education. Train the person well. Give the person all the opportunities that will make it possible for them to make it to Harvard. That's what they need. Not you, not giving them any of that. And then when they're about to get into Harvard, you're like, oh, well, because you came from a poor neighborhood that did not have, enough educational resources, we're just going to, somehow give you this admission even though you don't deserve it. And then those people get into school and then they perform poorly. So no, you are solving a problem when it is late. Affirmative action is fixing a problem when it is already late.
Action pick, is it going to be a kid that is poor or a kid that's from a different zip code?
I think we should do away with all of it. It's just like submit an application, no demographics. Why do they ask your sexuality? Like why do they ask all that stuff?
So, if affirmative action accomplished its purpose, why do we still see the disparities that we do in the professional workplace? If you average white wealth and compare it to black wealth totals, white people as a whole have about 50 times greater wealth than black people as a whole per capita. So I just don't understand why you think affirmative action has accomplished its purpose. I don't see that.
This is classic liberal position. Any disparity is because of inequality. It's because of discrimination. And the way we are going to fix it is through discrimination. Any form of disparity you ever see in society is because there is discrimination. Right? And how are we going to fix it? Through discrimination. That is classic liberal position. It doesn't make sense, but believe me, these guys believe it wholeheartedly. I wonder how they are so blind to exactly what they are saying. So there is no other reason why black people are not doing well in society other than the fact that it's hard for them to get to college. You cannot look at other areas. This has to be it. It has to be that there is discrimination and we've not been able to rectify the sins of the past. That is why black people are not doing well. There's I remember one time I was watching, I was reading this book, Sherlock Holmes, one of the installments like that. And he was talking with his wingman. I don't know what he's called. Forgotten his name. Anyway, so he was discussing with the guy, and he said something. He said, for you to crack a case, don't come up with any don't come up with a preconceived notion. If you come up with a preconceived notion, you are going to interpret everything to line up with the preconceived notion you've already have. If you want to solve a problem, if you want to deal with an issue, don't come up with a mindset of this is what the problem is. If not, everything you see is going to confirm it. It's called confirmation bias. And that is what so many people, especially when you are so, you find yourself a strong adherent, a strong fanatic of whatever position you hold culturally, politically, and what have you. Once you strongly adhere to it, everything confirms your bias. And nothing else. You don't tend to see that, oh, wait, what if there are other things to consider? What if the problem of inequality is caused by something else? What if, affirmative action does not solve it? What if there's something else we can consider? If affirmative action has not solved the disparity for how many years it has been running, then a normal person will say, then this is not effective. Right? Like a normal person would be like, this is not effective. Think about it. You have an illness and you take a drug for the illness, and the illness is getting worse, keeps getting worse. And you're like, no, this is why I need to keep taking the drug. No, this is proof that the drug is not working. Doesn't make sense, but these people will continue believing it.
Why do you assume that just because there is a disparity means it's because of a racial issue?
What else would it be from?
I mean,
upbringing, economic abilities,
desire
skills.
to go, desire to.
I mean,
So
zip
it
code
was their
does
fault.
play a lot. If you grow up in a neighborhood that experiences a lot of trauma, you're not as likely to do as well in school, which means you're.
Why did they grow up in a neighborhood that experiences a lot of trauma?
I mean, lots of people do.
Yes,
live in
but
a-
why specifically do more black people?
Government assistance programs.
Government assistance programs, like what?
Young man, they just told you that one of the reasons is because of psychological issues. Okay? You are straying from the subject. So let's stop there first. They told you one of the reasons is psychological issues. When you live in an environment where you have trauma and stuff, it will not make you excel in school and make you excel to the degree that you want to get into college. And even when you get into college, you'll be able to do well. They just give you one reason. And you're like, why is this? No, stop there for a minute and think about that. If that is true, then how does affirmative action fix that? Because what we are talking about here is affirmative action. Don't go, why is there trauma? Because the next question will be, will affirmative action fix trauma? They just made a very crucial point and you're just going to roll over it because you want to win an argument. That's very stupid. They just made a very important point. People who grow up in neighborhoods or environment that is traumatic cannot do well in school. Where they grow up in an environment where there are certain things that limit them, they will not do well in school. So how do you fix those limitations? Affirmative action? Really, affirmative action is going to fix background issues, trauma issues, psychological, social, and economic issues will be fixed just by giving people tuition, admission that they don't deserve. I mean...
Redlining.
I mean, you can go into that if you'd like to, but let's
It
take a
is
look
relevant.
at the Great Societies Act, which was created to kick black fathers out of the home and get black mothers on welfare assistance. These things aren't beneficial for economics. These things aren't beneficial for actually paving a way for success for black children and black families. I mean, reducing a two-family household to a one-family household isn't going to make them the richest
Chandler
man
is
in the
filled
world.
with talking
It isn't
points.
even going to get them out of high school. Nonetheless,
You mean
the ability to
parents.
even get to college.
You mean two
Yeah,
parents.
the child, yes, but a two-parent household
Yeah.
in comparison to a one-parent household, that child is not going to be nearly as successful. That child is more disposed to being sent into prison by doing crimes or not doing very well in school. So how are they even supposed to get that, that wealth disparity shrunk if they aren't even able to get out of the community that is causing these problems for them?
Something I think that this conversation illustrates is that affirmative action is
Ray, are you a troll? Because some of the things you just say are absolutely ridiculous. Are you trying to taunt me? Because I find it funny. I find some of the things you say very comical. Like Negro Africans who migrate to foreign countries are brainwashed and sellouts. Really? People who are trying to escape poverty and trying to escape corrupt environment that is making it difficult for them to succeed. They run to America for a good life, for a better life, and they are doing that because they are sellouts and they are brainwashed. Listen, I'm not a fan of people moving abroad. I'm not a huge fan of that. If you've if you've been a frequent guest or a frequent, if you've been a frequent viewer, you know I've expressed this opinion countless times. I'm not a huge favorite, but I understand why they do it, and it's not because they are brainwashed. So many people do it because they are desperate. So, so like people in Sudan now. These are people who are refugees who, if they don't leave, they will lose their life. What about people who are people who were in Somalia, who if they don't leave, they will lose their life? Those people, they should have stayed and died in Somalia so that they can prove to you that they are not sellouts and, and what else did you say? That they are not brainwashed. I like that. I like that. Keep it up.
Literally the very end of the line of a lot of different parts of a person's life. And by that point, trying to rectify all of the inequities that have existed, to try to remedy any of that at the very end with affirmative action, it might just be too broad a brush. And maybe we'd be better served focusing on the earlier issues than trying to throw a kid who maybe, you know, can barely read at a 6th grade level into a college to hope that that's the thing that fixes the problem at the end of the line.
I think,
and this is why I said Destiny really, his opinions were solid. As in when he said this, I was like, a round of applause to Destiny. This is remarkable. A round of applause, because he was right on the money. You cannot fix a lot of issues at the end when the person is about, like, think about, you're trying to remedy a situation about a child's future when so many things have already gone wrong. So many things have already gone wrong. And you're like, okay, now that he's about to get into the university, this is when we'll fix it. No, he's already, like, at that point, it's already too late. You know.
affirmative action wasn't really supposed to, like, send kids to Harvard that weren't prepared to go to Harvard. I think that's quite a myth, in fact. I think those that have the qualities to get to Harvard were, before affirmative action, could just completely overlooked. You know, Clarence Thomas is like the perfect example. You know, regardless of what you think about him, he was able to get to Harvard because of affirmative action, because, you know, it focused on finding people that were, you know, again, like, just overlooked for those.
But things ended up changing. It morphed into something else. So what started out as a good program of giving all black people, or people with a lesser chance or lesser opportunity, it started out as that, and then it morphed and I'm not sure who morphed it, but it morphed into, okay, so now we have to have one black, one Hispanic, one this, one that.
That's not how that works.
But hey, talk to the corporations, talk to the people who hire, talk to the board members who say we need to have a woman on the board, we need to have a black on the board, we need to have a Latina, a Latinx, whatever, on the board. So it morphed from helping us into now
Tokenization.
Yes. So you have to have one of this, one of that.
Diversity
Well, when you start with a country where people only hire you if you're white, that's necessary.
No, that's not necessary. This guy makes statement like it's a it goes without saying. That's necessary. I just made it. He doesn't even make a case for the things he's saying. He just states it. No, that's not necessary. You don't fix past discrimination with present discrimination. That's not, this is something people don't understand about discrimination of any form. It doesn't benefit anybody. When you live in a society that people discriminate against each other, legally or illegally, for good reasons or for bad reasons, it doesn't benefit anybody, especially the society as a whole. When we are more egalitarian, when we are more fair, when we are in a system where there is of meritocracy, where there is fairness, it is beneficial to everyone in that society. But when there is any form of discrimination where one group is preferred against another group, it does not help the society. Does not help anyone. And if it does not help the society, it may help you as an individual, but because it is harming the society, in the long run, you get to reap the actual effect of that discrimination. You get to live in a society where that is uneven. And it is not going to be beneficial for anybody. So when you notice that there is a discrimination in society, you stop it. Not you replace it with something else because you're trying to be good. You end it, the end, full stop. The solution is not, oh, it is necessary for, it is that case have been made countless, and we've seen over and over again that it does not help anybody. The quality of certain things that come from the West have diminished because of this. Go look at the movie industry, for example. It has become I will call it cesspool of affirmative action, where roles are being dished out because of people's skin color or identity, racial identity, ethnic, sexual identity. And what do you see in the movies? You see movies that are just crappy. Terrible storylines, terrible acting, terrible everything. But at least those people can beat their chest and say, yeah, we are very diverse. What do you think is the solution to that? Let people who deserve to be in those positions get the position. That is what it is supposed to be. So don't think this case of because they have been past discrimination, we have to discriminate in the present. It is necessary. It is not true. It is not necessary.
I know that you said that it started good and then ended whatever, and I don't think that affirmative action was perfect by any measure, but we still see really, really bad inequality. So if you're going to get rid of affirmative action, what's the replacement?
Meritocracy.
There's no meritocracy in this country. You look at Elon.
Then let's make it happen. There is no meritocracy, okay? Then let's make it happen. If you believe that there is none, I believe there is, but if you believe that there is none, let's talk about how we can make meritocracy a thing. Let us make it a reality. If you believe that it doesn't exist, then let's work towards it. Not, there's no meritocracy in this country. Then let's bring it in now. That's what we are going to. You said, what are we going to use to replace it? And we are giving you the replacement. And you're like, it is not in this country. Yeah, that's why it is called the replacement. Jesus Christ. This guy just like arguing.
Musk, he's destroying Twitter. There's no meritocracy.
What does Elon Musk and Twitter have to do with meritocracy? What does that have to do with anything?
That's ridiculous.
Well, first thing I want to bounce back to is it's not a myth that there are minorities that are being put into colleges that they're not ready for. If you look at a lot of these top universities, including Harvard, Yale, etc., you're going to see a lot of minorities on academic probation because they are being placed in universities that they are not ready for. They are not cut out for that just yet. And it even just makes sense if you look at how much they have to achieve in order to get there. Asian students on average have to score 450 points higher than a black student in order to get in the same university. So if you think of the universities that have courses, et cetera, that grade on a curve, you can only have so many people with an A, so many people with a B, et cetera. So that means that the bottom percentile is going to fail. Who is most likely, just based on logic, going to be the ones failing? It's going to be the people who didn't have the credentials to get there in the first place. And then I have to bounce back to.
I want to get you on that point because I would posit that the people who are least likely to have good outcomes in an academic setting are those who have to work 2 jobs, are those who have to drive there from home.
Really? Okay. My dad who when he was growing up had to do and the jobs he was working is not working as a waiter in McDonald's. That's not the kind of job he was doing. I'm talking hard labor. These are people who have to go cut down firewood, sell the firewood, do something. These are people who had to hawk so that they'll be able to go to school. And he was very brilliant, did exceptionally well in school, never affected him in any way. He was exceptional, an exceptional student. But he had to do so many things. For him to even pay his school fees, buy his textbooks, it was difficult for him. Yet he ended up an exceptional student. But by all means, working 2 jobs is what is going to make you fail. I'm not saying it's not difficult. Having to work 2 jobs and still go to school. People do it. There are migrants who go to America these are first generation migrants who move from their country to America for schooling and do these things. Like they even go ready to do it. And it doesn't affect their grade. Many of them come out, with good grades, with good, as in doing well in school. So, yes, economic factors, play some role, but you cannot ignore the fact that if you don't have the academic if you don't have the academic capacity to handle certain universities, you will not do well. even if you are not working 5 jobs. But of course, you can see from the lens this guy looks at things, and he believes that everything is circumstance that create the problem. It is purely the product. Everyone is purely a product of his circumstance. That is what everyone is. There is nothing you can do to change that. We are all a product of our circumstance, and all we need is help. People who are suffering are because of the bad circumstances that they find themselves, and if we don't help them, they will never do well. That's Alex's position. And nothing you say will change that.
Because they can't afford a dorm, are those who have to go into crippling financial debt. These are and have other stresses in their life. They can't afford a doctor, they can't afford a dentist, they can't afford anything.
I had to do that too, though.
Really? Is it true that black people in schools can't afford anything? Because he's painting this really, is it really true that black people in universities, they can't afford anything? They are just brokies, no money, nothing. Because he's painting this really grim picture of people in school, black people in school. And I'm wondering, is this really the case, or is this a stereotype?
Those are the
That's
people.
not just black people. It's not just.
But it's
If we're looking at
overwhelmingly.
straight numbers, there are more white people in poverty than black people.
If you look at the wrong numbers, but if you
I don't know,
actually
what are the
understand what
wrong
you're talking
numbers?
about.
No
The
number
issue
is
is poverty
wrong.
in general, though. I don't think it's like who's in poverty. It's like poverty sucks. It
Maybe we
shouldn't
should make
matter
college
who's in it.
free, and maybe we want to have
If you have a
affirmative action
program-
wouldn't be that necessary.
It'll get even more ghetto.
If you have a program that says if you are under a certain income level, this is how we'll help you, that will overwhelmingly help black people at a far greater percentage than it will help white people.
Trump supports Black lives.
This was one of those questions. You're like, okay.
I think that President Trump supports all lives. I think that he looks at all American citizens as equal. I don't see him doing anything that would make you feel like he does not support Black lives. That's, of course, going to lead into the conversation of Black Lives Matter, which was a movement and an organization with so much corruption. Donald Trump not supporting that organization doesn't mean that he doesn't support Black lives. It just means that he doesn't support the fraudulent organization that's stealing so much money from so many people to do absolutely nothing with it, nor does he support a destructive movement that is destroying cities, communities, lives, etc. So I don't see why someone would think that President Trump doesn't support.
Well, the answer is it depends on how you define support. How do you define support? Yeah. So, well, let's keep watching.
Support Black lives.
I've heard him say he knows all the best black people. He has all the best black friends. I do support black people all the time. Sorry, that was a very bad impression, but I don't think Donald Trump wants bad things to happen to black people. So in that respect, I think he does support Black lives, but the other side of that is he's not really doing anything. He didn't do anything as president, certainly, to uplift black people.
The economy affects black people.
Yeah, that's not true. That's not true. The numbers say otherwise. That's not true.
Yeah, I certainly disagree with that point. One of the biggest things I
What does he do for the
supported
economy?
personally, well, yeah, we don't. We'll get into that one later. One of the biggest things he did is he secured permanent funding for HBCUs, one of the largest increases we ever saw for HBCUs, personally done by his administration, among many other things. The First Step Act, which there's a lot of debate about whether it was really the best thing to do, but that was definitely a kiss of love to the black race. Freeing Alice Johnson for menial drug crimes she committed in the past that had her locked up. She did not get to see her family for years.
Yeah, but that's not like, okay, I did say I agree, but I agree in the sense that Donald Trump doesn't literally want bad things to happen to black people, like I think a lot of conservatives do. So I think that he just says the most, yeah, I do think that. I think he says the things that will get him elected. So I don't think that he has any personal grudges against most people. He just says the most popular thing. So I think like Ron DeSantis would be somebody that I think actually wants black people to be hurt. So by that standard, yeah, Donald Trump supports Black lives by leaps and bounds.
Really? This guy really believes that there are people who...
You think Donald Trump says the most popular thing?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Then why do so many people hate him?
He got elected as president.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He didn't win the popular vote. Neither time.
That's a
That's
liberal
what your
talking
side
point.
loves to say.
That's
Yeah.
a liberal talking
I'm
point.
helping you here. I'm trying to see the logic in this. Obviously, he says things to be elected as a politician very similarly to how Joe Biden did, except Joe Biden actually has a history of racism.
If he said things that people didn't like, he wouldn't have been our president.
So you
These people are just arguing in circles. Even me, my head is just like, what are these people even saying? Of course, as a politician, you're going to say things people don't like. You know, you're going to say one side of the aisle will agree with you, another side of the aisle will disagree with you. You're going to say things people don't like. If Hillary Clinton did not get elected because she said things that some people did not like, everybody, you're going to say things that people don't like. What is the point?
like everything that Donald Trump says. You think everything he says is popular.
I love a lot of the things he says. I think he's hilarious. When he said big water, that was one of my favorite quotes. Big water.
Water, big water, ocean water.
He has the funniest one-liners, so I love a lot of the things he says. As far as policy, he sucks, but
I'm just shocked you're wearing a Hunter Biden hat. He likes a different.
Nah, policy. This, of course, like Thomas So said, some people are immune to facts. So this guy is immune to facts. Doesn't even care about it.
I know, conservatives love talking about his
No, Coke. It's different. Coke, not.
Trump is less of the issue and more so the people that support him, like Die Hard. They facilitate that kind of like hate, I think, for a lot of people, not just black people, but like.
I mean, this man took out like a full page in a newspaper calling for the public execution of 5 black kids. His hotels, all of his businesses have rampant history of denying black people apartments or whatever.
Now, this thing he said now is does not mean somebody is racist. Trump has a lot of businesses. Is he the one who personally runs them? Is he the one, like I have a fleet of hotels. Like, I don't even know if fleet is the word you use, but I have a bunch of hotels. And in some of the hotels, black people are being turned away. Some of the properties I own, black people are not allowed in. I'm not in charge of the day-to-day running of my business. That there is a business, some of my business and the people who run it, these are the things they do. Does that reflect on who I am as a person? Of course not. It's like saying, I found anti-Semitism on Twitter. That means Elon Musk is anti-Semitic. Of course not. What happens on his platform does not reflect who he is. You know, so his property denied service to black people. This is proof that he is racist. And also calling for the Jackson 5, which is a controversial issue. Calling for their execution, and he said this later in the conversation. He said he called for their execution simply because they were black, and that is a lie. He called for their execution because he believed they were guilty. Now you can say with the Jackson 5 case, you can say that's wrong. You might disagree with the opinion. But that does not make him racist. There are black people who think the same thing too. Are they racist too? Anyways, what does it mean to be racist? That's why I say, what does it mean to support? You know, the one thing I've learned these days is in America is that you can get married to a black person, adopt black children, run a charity for black people, do everything possible you can, spend your whole life working in black communities, and you can still be accused of racism. That's one thing I've realized. Believe me, if you are somebody in the United States, for example, and you run a black charity, you are married to a black woman, you have adopted like 7 black children who, and you've done all of these things, and you vote for Trump, they will call you a racist. I'm telling you. That's how inescapable it is sometimes. Like there's nothing you can do. Once you belong to the wrong, once you find yourself on a different eye politically, you are racist by default.
So
I forgot about that. I should not have stepped forward.
Look, I mean, Donald Trump cares about Donald Trump, so I don't think he really cares about anyone, I guess, unless you're like super rich or whatever.
When you look at his history on racial issues, whether it's the shithole countries comment, the plethora of comments he made about Mexican people, just the comments he's made about Muslims, the idea that Trump cares at all about some particular racial minority, I think is a little bit silly. I think Trump will say whatever he needs to say to rile up his base and to get elected.
I don't necessarily think those statements come from a place.
What he said about Mexico, what he even said about Africa, even though to me, to some extent, I was like, all right, that's over the top, but that is also true, you know. And what he said about Mexicans, of course, the problem with Trump is he doesn't know how to word. He's not an Obama when it comes to speaking. He just says it how it is. There's no filter. There's no arrangement. So sometimes it comes off in the wrong way. You may not like his rhetoric, but those rhetoric are not strong representation of who he is. And I'm not going to be one who is going to defend him. There are a couple of things that I have issues with when it comes to Donald Trump. He's somebody who he falls for anybody who gives him compliments. He's narcissistic. That's a very serious problem that Trump has. He's narcissistic. He doesn't know how to hire people. He doesn't hire the best people. As much as he likes to claim to, he doesn't. He will hire anybody who sings his praise. That is who Trump is. What else? What else about? He has a couple of character weaknesses that we can point out, but racism is not one of them. And he comes off as somebody who lacks control. That's another thing about him. He looks like somebody who is unhinged, who has no control. Like, he has no control over what he says. He has no control over so many aspects of his life. And it's just, I don't think yes, his presidency was good, but his character is also concerning. And any person who is honest, even though you've whatever you believe, you cannot ignore that about him. You know.
Place of hatred. I don't think he was ever saying specifically, oh, if you pray 5 times a day towards the east or towards Mecca based on wherever you are, you're a bad person. I think he was saying if you like to fly planes into towers or behead people or throw people off of buildings, maybe you're not the most virtuous person out there.
I supported Trump because he made the economy good. And so the economy then impacted black people, white people, Latino people, it impacted everybody. But Trump, he didn't think specifically, I don't think, about black people. He thought about himself, and he thought about how can I make America great for me, and making and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go with this guy, and the reason I'm gonna go with this guy is because if he can make America great and he can make that it rise for everybody, I'm gonna benefit from that. So that's why I went, and that's why I voted for him. That's why I supported him.
How does that specifically benefit black people? Again, he's a businessman, but he's also...
Here is the problem with you, my friend. If something is good for the economy, everybody in the economy is going to benefit. You don't have to do something specifically for a specific group. That is what you do when all you run on is identity politics. So you toss every identity group a bone. When you care about the nation as a whole, you do what is good for everybody. When you do, like I remember a presidential candidate, a Nigerian presidential candidate who the election was stolen from. He said, if you do something good in the country, everybody is going to benefit. It doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter where you are from. It doesn't matter what. Everybody is going to benefit. That is what you need. You need a president who will do something that everybody will benefit from. And if the economy is good, when you have a good economy, that's a classic example of something you can fix that will benefit everybody. You don't have to come up with special programs for special groups. When you start doing that, for me, I feel that is the origin of identity politics. Where you start, oh, this group needs something special. Why are you giving a group a preferential treatment? Until I give a group preferential treatment, it shows that until I do that, then I do not support them. I have to be preferential towards them. No.
Racist businessman, like well documented. So like I just.
And Biden's not. Biden's not.
Yes, he is. He created the crime bill. So that's regardless of the
Well,
point.
address the Central Park Five. That's what you brought up, right? How do you feel about that?
Well,
he took that full
actually,
page out
okay,
after they were
so
exonerated.
I haven't
He wanted them
dealt-
to be killed,
Well,
That is why I didn't
executed,
step forward,
just because they were
of
black.
That story.
And
But,
he
I don't think he wrote that they should be killed because they are black. I don't think Trump wrote that. If not, he wouldn't be. He would. This is the thing. So many people, especially when the media, media will teach you who to hate. Many people forget that Trump had a lot of black friends. Despite that column that he wrote, he was friends with Oprah. He was friends with Snoop Dogg. He was friends with Jesse Jackson. He was friends with so many black Democrats. He was their friend until he stopped, until he started saying the things. He started going after Obama and stuff like that. Then he stopped being their friend. But he was their friend. Oprah was so much in love with Trump. Everybody now is acting like they've forgotten. But that happened. So now they're like, oh, remember the article he wrote? That is racist. He was calling for their execution. And I'm like, it was an opinion. And I don't think it was a racist opinion. It was an opinion. He thought they were guilty. That does not make him racist.
bars people from attending his businesses or like renting apartments from all his like stupid Trump towers.
I think Trump at that point was, like many people in this room, particularly liberals, a victim of the media. I think he was scared. I think he was ashamed of the things that he heard in the news and wanted to take action himself as a businessman, not as a
Why
racist.
are you infantilizing him?
I don't like also real quick, because people keep bringing up this comparison to the '93 crime bill from Biden. That crime bill, this was at the height of like violent crime and the crack epidemic in the United States. The Congressional Black Caucus supported that crime bill. Everybody in the United States supported that crime bill. The idea that that crime bill was like some racist piece of legislation that Biden was just wheeling out because he hates black people, and that's somehow comparable to the Donald Trump's treatment of the Central Park Five that were already exonerated, that wasn't a victim of the media. The media said they were done. They were exonerated in court. They weren't there.
So Trump is racist because he disagreed. I don't even understand this. So Trump is racist because he disagreed with the popular narrative, and Biden is not racist because he agreed with popular narrative. That's how we are defining racism.
I understand that the prosecutor of the five, he was a black guy, and so in being a black guy.
So there were black people who believed that those guys were cute. That is the point I'm trying to make. You cannot use that one case to make it Trump was racist. And let me tell you something how I feel about racism. This is how I feel about the whole subject of racism, the whole topic of racism. I believe that everybody has the tendency to be racist. Everyone at various points in our life attempted to be racist. And many times we fall into that temptation. Knowingly, unknowingly, sometimes out of ignorance, sometimes out of anger, sometimes out of misinformation. That is the human condition. But there are levels to it. There are levels to racism. There's racism that is just people adopting certain stereotypes and not having enough information or enough interaction with people to realize that those stereotypes are not 100% true. Right? That is some things that will fuel people having racist ideas or supporting racist views. It's just because these people are not well informed. Sometimes it is out of anger. Like when you meet somebody in the street and the person is angry with you and then he used a racial slur against you. It's not because the person hates you. It's just because the person was angry with you. Then you now have the ones that are problematic, where you are denying people opportunities because of the color of their skin, or where you are attacking people. Outrightly attacking people, causing them harm, inflicting them in various ways simply because of the color of their skin. But to equate all of this as this is, to equate all of them and make it look like they are all the same thing is what I don't agree with, because each and every one of us have that tendency to have racist views, to look at people in a particular kind of way, and under certain conditions when we are angry, to be overwhelmed by racist thoughts and feel like the way to hurt people is to say something, to bless them, with a racial slur. That is one level of it. Another level of it is when you are outrightly performing acts that harm people of a particular race, and you are doing that because of how you feel about those people. That, for me, that is the racism that I'm concerned with. Where your racism has now become you performing acts that put other people down, acts that oppress other people. That is the real racism that we should be bothered about. All this, look at what he said. Look at what he tweeted. He used the N-word. I'm like, come on. Is this what you call, is this the form of racism that you are bothered about? Then it is now a case of let he who is without sin be the first to cast a stone. So that's how I see the whole idea of racism. And the way the West take it, is just, it doesn't make sense. To me, it doesn't. Because as a Nigerian, we have ethnic slurs for almost every ethnicity. We have jokes that you consider like offensive, but in Nigeria we are not crybabies, so we don't easily get offended. About every ethnic group. The one that bothers us is when it now manifests in your action. When through your actions, we cannot say, this person really hates so group of people based on how he's acting. Then that is the problem. Or where your speech ignites those kind of actions. Like where you are calling for certain group of people to be harmed. You are calling for certain group of people to suffer certain things, and you are encouraging negative treatment towards a particular. That is what we should be concerned about. And you are encouraging that based on the color or their ethnicity, their identity, whatever it is. That is what we should be bothered about. Not somebody having some opinion, let's say thinking all black people love chicken, and you're like, that's racist. Or crossing the road when they see somebody who is black wearing a hoodie. That's racist. I'm like, no. That is just, some of it is even like, please, by all means, cross the road. Another is just ignorance. They don't really know better. Or expecting that every black person is a rapper. That is just stereotype. And we have elevated everything. There is no difference between somebody who thinks every black person is a rapper and somebody who wants to hang a black person and burn him alive. There is no difference now. It doesn't make sense.
He went and he looked at all the evidence and said, these guys are guilty.
Black people can also be racist against other black people.
Or just make mistakes.
Can you imagine? Black people can be racist towards other black people. And someone said black people can make mistakes, but Trump did not make any mistake. When Trump was having the same view with the prosecution, that was him being racist. But when a black person holds the same view, that's them being mistaken. That's fantastic, man. I love the single standard.
So if anybody does anything you disagree with in regards to the Central Park Five, even if they themselves are a black person, they're just a self-loathing black person. They're just a racist black person.
If they disagree with me, they're racist.
That prosecutor was doing his job.
That's my policy. If they disagree with me, they're racist.
I like that.
I think Trump has shown a history of ignorant at best and racist at worst behavior.
Yeah, that's how we classify it. Ignorance. These are ignorant statements. There are statements people make about race, a particular race, and I'll say these are ignorant statements. These are statements made out of ignorance. This does not mean this person is a bad person.
I didn't vote for him or Hillary because I just don't see him as a conservative hero. I don't even think he's a conservative.
Fake
personally.
conservative. I voted Trump in 2016, just so you all know. So I'm just saying.
So I need you to elaborate on if people disagree with you, they're racist, just in general.
I was just kidding.
He's just, yeah.
You never know.
Just like the hat.
Kind of
Sorry if I triggered you. I'm sorry.
You made a point. You made a point
Okay.
a couple minutes back where you said he just kind of says these things to rile up his base. Why does he need to do that at the expense of black people then?
He doesn't do that I am a member of his base, and I'm sitting there like, oh man, this is amazing. And I don't know, you can call me
So
self-loathing, you can call me self-hating,
you're
you can call
saying
me
calling
racist.
for the
can call you
public
stupid.
execution of 5 black men that were exonerated to
When has
rile
he
up
done
his
that during the
base.
campaign trail? He didn't do that when he was a politician.
Well,
He did that when he
again,
was a
it's
scared businessman
everything.
in New York.
It's
feeling
everything
bad.
Steve said about the comments about Muslims, the comments about.
The comments about Muslims, you people in America should better take that comment seriously. And I'm not saying all Muslims, because anytime you make statement about Muslims or any of this group, they want to mean all of us. I'm not saying all of you. I'm not saying all of you. By all means, I'm not saying all of you. Okay?
Mexican immigrants. Why does he need,
And what he said about Mexican immigrants is these people are coming in and they're coming in with drugs. They're not sending us their best. That is a fair statement. Even some of the Mexicans, this is the thing people don't even understand. Even some of the Mexicans in Texas agree with him. They don't want more immigration of Mexicans. I was watching an interview by Nicola De Santo. I don't know if you know him. He's a comedian, a British comedian, but he's not British. He's Italian and then Iranian. I don't even know how they pronounce it. Anyways, so he was saying something about immigration, and he was like, whenever he tells people as an Iranian that he's not in support of Iranian migrants coming into, of having so many Iranian migrants coming into Europe, that they're like, but you're an Iranian. Why wouldn't you be in support of that? He's like, yo, I left Iran because I don't want to be surrounded by Iranians. That is the very reason why I left. And now you are opening the border so all of them can come in. So my entire neighborhood will be surrounded. That is the very reason why I left. And of course, that's a joke, but that's still the point. Many of the Mexicans don't want all those Mexicans that they left to come because those were the very Mexicans that they were escaping. Some of them are the ones you are letting in through your borders. That is the truth. So you need to vet them. They need to be vetted. There need to be a better vetting system so that you don't let in criminals. That's just what it is. But to make it look like, oh, because he made that statement, therefore he's racist towards Mexico. Anyway, it's America. Anything can be classified as racism. Yeah, the other day I was watching an interview from I think it's the chairman of the Anti-Defamation League, and then the interviewer was asking him. With regards to what Elon Musk sued the ADL for defamation, and they were asking him in the interview with regards to the whole saga between the ADL and Elon Musk. Now, what will you say to people who say that the way you treat these organizations, the way you pressure them, the way you affect their bottom line is you doing a shakedown, trying to get a position or trying to get a donation from these organizations? And instead of the chairman of the ADL to answer it directly, he said that as making that assumption about the ADL is anti-Semitic in itself, because it is an anti-Semitic trope to think, the ADL is after money or after position or after power, because that is an anti-Semitic trope about Jewish people. I kid you not, that was his response. So just criticizing the way the ADL conduct itself and saying, look, you are shaking down these companies, and then they end up giving you big donations and maybe giving you power in the company because they don't want to lose advertisers. That's like a shakedown. This is a mafia style way of running things. Saying that to you is just pointing that out amounts to anti-Semitism. In the same vein, just saying some of the people who come in through our borders are criminals. Some people who come in through the Mexican border are rapists. Woo! So you are saying Mexicans are rapists. That is a racist trope against Jesus Christ. Really? As in, the standard is just so low when it comes to anything. Anything can be. And this is the thing about when you treat terminologies and things like that, is that anything now passes for racism. When anything can be racism, then nothing is racism. Then racism loses its meaning and people don't care anymore. And then the real racist will now manifest.
About Mexican immigrants, never about Muslims, about terrorists and about criminals and rapists. These are very important delineations to make, and if you believe that what you fed the media about, it's all Mexican immigrants, I think it's more of you being, oh man, these poor Mexicans, they need to be supported. It's more of that savior complex. Wow,
what was
we're
the
back
rationale
again.
behind axing or trying to ax DACA? These people were registered with the federal government, they were in school, They were doing everything that they needed to do. They had no home elsewhere. They were brought into this country as minors. Like, what's the explanation for that?
I think that requires more nuance. Like I mentioned, by thinking, oh, this will be really good for your base, and he's doing a lot as a president.
That's okay. That's okay if we feel that way.
So,
But
if I take responsibility for something, if I say he has responsibility for something, well, then you're right. But if I'm saying, well, maybe there are some people around him advising him falsely, it's infantilizing.
Which is one of the problems with Trump. He was one of the people he handed over the country to was Anthony Fauci. You know, I hire the best. You know, and that's the person who was giving him advice. This is one of the issues I have with Donald Trump, is that in some issues he just gives over, you know, a portion of the country to somebody who is incompetent is an understatement. Like when it comes to describing who those people are. So yeah.
He was the president.
There's no good way.
He called the shots. What are you talking about?
The only path forward to solving illegal immigration starts with amnesty for everybody here. The reality is there's some 10 to 15 million illegal immigrants here. We're not deporting them all.
With the people who are...
But Barack Obama deported... These people though. Barack Obama deported immigrants. I've forgotten the numbers, but under his regime, he deported immigrants. But he's not racist because he's a Democrat, of course.
Already here,
and he's
that's
black.
A lot more of a messy, nuanced conversation.
Black people cannot be racist, except they are racist towards their own self, or they are not Democrats. Then they're obviously the black face of white supremacy. You know.
But as far as people coming in, I do think we need stronger borders and actual vetting happening.
And I just want to say, in Ronald Reagan's day, he was given the promise. He said, look, if you go ahead and you pass this particular bill, we'll give these people amnesty and we're done. And it didn't happen. We didn't. Illegal immigration continued even after Reagan already said we will give these people amnesty. So that's why we get a burr up our butt, because he had already done it.
Hopefully the devil's giving him amnesty.
Yeah, that's the. Did you listen? Did you hear what that guy said? Did you hear what that guy said? This is the kind liberal. When he said this, I remember when I was watching it and he said this, and I was like, this is the kind, good-natured, loving. We just care about people liberal. When politics have rot your brain, that you are going to say that about somebody, then maybe you need to step back. Maybe you need to step back and ask yourself real questions. Why have I become hateful? These people claim other people are hateful, right? If you say a woman is a man cannot become a woman, that's hateful. But if you say Ronald Reagan should be in hell and hopefully the devil will give him an amnesty, you are a very kind-hearted, loving person. Your heart is so full of abundant love that you are wishing somebody to be in hell. That's Jesus Christ. Oh, Jesus. But they have so much love. Oh, I want you to understand that their heart is full of love. You know, they just care. They have empathy. They are very empathetic. Too empathetic. You know, they overflow in so much empathy. These are the kind of people that this political divide creates. It's just messy at this point. And I feel for Westerners when you have people who feel this type of way and think they are justified in thinking that kind of way. You know.
True.
What did he do? Did he kill anybody? What did he do? Now you make...
That's terrible.
No, that's base. Thank you.
Tasteless.
Very tasteless
Ninth
and
circle,
stupid.
baby.
My political beliefs have changed from the past.
I grew up in a conservative household, actually, in Ohio. And my parents were always pretty political, so I always stayed political. I was very religious as a teenager. Sometime during college and then afterwards, especially during COVID, my sister actually indoctrinated me into a more leftist position. And I overcorrected a little bit. I started becoming pretty cringy as far as sit down and let the minorities all talk, right? Don't say anything, don't speak over them, etc. They would, it was like the whole you can't speak over Candace Owens even if she's literally a Nazi kind of thing. So I I stand by that. So yeah, I kind of leveled out, thankfully, and I'm less cringe now.
Did you? Are you?
He's less cringe now. No, especially this guy over here. This in white, the white guy in white. Man, that thing he said was just bad, distasteful. Oh no. That is just bad. You don't talk like that. You don't talk like that. You don't talk like this is where you realize that there are certain people you can never agree with. You people cannot see eye to eye because hatred is now involved. That's the real hatred that now exists in America. The prominent form of hatred in America. It's not hating people because they are black. It's not hating people because they are Chinese. Those exist, but it is not as prominent as the current form of hatred in America. It's hating people because of the position that they adopt. Hating people because of their political ideology. That is the real hatred in America. Listen, some of the things liberals say I think is stupid. I make most of my channel, I condemn, I make fun of some of the things that I say. I point out how they are ridiculous, how sometimes they are even insulting and offensive and annoying. You understand? But I try as much as possible in my heart not to harbor hatred towards these people and understand that, that's why I always say stupidity, calling somebody stupid is not an insult. To call somebody, the real insult is saying, go to hell. Because stupidity is like if you educate yourself more, if you open your mind more, you can be cured of your stupidity. If you allow some perspective in your life, you can be cured of your stupidity. If you stop being immune to fact and reality, you can be cured of your stupidity. But when you now have hatred towards someone else, you are not open to whatever the person says. And that is the real problem in America today, is that the one side of the political hates people on the other side. See them as devils, as demons, call them fascists, Hitler, and General Mao, Stalin, Fidel Castro. Yes, many of them are subscribed to those ideas, but believe me, none of them know what it's like. It's like what Jesus said when he was on the cross. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So many of these people, they don't know what they are saying. I've seen so many people in America, like on my Twitter, I see some things people say, and I'm like, these people don't even know what they are saying. It doesn't make them bad people. So to start, they should Jesus Christ. Because they don't agree with, it's well.
I cringed.
This is leveled out. Imagine if we would have been here a year ago.
I mean, maybe I am being cringe. Who cares?
So I grew up conservative, but I did have more left-leaning ideas about like Black Lives Matter and critical race theory, and I was watching a lot of YouTube, and I did agree that Black people were oppressed and all of these different things, and that we were kind of got the short end of the stick. And during 2020, when there was everything crazy was happening, and I started organizing rallies against the mandates because I thought that they were just totally unconstitutional and un-American. And then George Floyd dies. And initially I was like enraged like everybody else. And then it started to become this weird political agenda masquerading behind his face. The face of what was actually happening started to peel off. And I was like, I would counter-protest BLM activists at my town square when I lived in Texas. And they were some of the most just bitter, vile, horrible people you could ever meet. Meanwhile, the Confederate group that would protest there against them also, they were the nicest people ever to me, ironically.
I grew up in a Democratic, not a Democratic household, but kind of apolitical, but everybody was Democrat. And then I got a job. And when I got a job and I saw all the taxes come out and I started looking to the left and
I
to the
started
right.
living in the real world. I was Democratic, and then I started living in the real world, started doing my taxes, and then I was like, damn.
Oh, my money's whittling away over here. And I said, you know what? After Reagan, I'm just going to go ahead and declare myself a Republican, and I've been a Republican ever since.
My mom is pretty liberal. She married my stepdad when I was 15, 16 in high school, and he's super conservative, loved Trump, diehard Trump fan. and they had a lot of like back and forth, hearing the two sides, like people who are on such polar opposites, just like argue all the time about stuff, seeing that there's a lot of similarities in both sides, like the far radical left and the far radical right, they have a lot of similarities. They just don't want to come and like see it.
I started off actually kind of similar to you. I went to a Jesuit high school. I grew up very conservative. My mom is Cuban, so ride or die Bush supporter, who is now a ride or die Trump supporter. I think the point in my life when I was the most like libertarian was probably the lowest point in my life financially. And I think it's because something that conservatives do really well is they make you feel like you can always like succeed as long as you work hard enough. And that's something that progressives and liberals suck at, that you're a victim of systemic racism, you're black so you're going to be discriminated against, you're a woman so nobody's going to care about your feelings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas Republicans will tell you, listen, if you work hard, you can do whatever you want, like just as long as you're willing to put in the work. And I felt that way up to the moment where I was losing my house, where I had an ex-girlfriend that was pregnant, where I had been fired from my previous job. There was a whole bunch of horrible stuff going on in my life, and I very, very luckily got into online content creation. And from there, as I started to make more money, I started to pay more taxes. When I get older and I look at taxes that come out of my paycheck, I care a little bit, but it was just so funny to me that back when I was making $15,000, $20,000 a year, I'm like, I gotta vote for the lower tax bracket, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm barely paying any taxes anyways. And now that I'm older, like if the government wants to take, a few, 10, 20, whatever, how many more $1,000 out.
You just said you worked hard.
I did, but I got very, very, very lucky doing so. Very lucky.
Do you think it's just luck?
It's not just luck, but the difference is that born into a wealthier family, you can make so many more mistakes in life. And when you're born poor, you get like one or two before your life is over. And that's really sad to me.
Yeah, so I used to be a liberal. I voted for Bernie Sanders in 2016, as much as I regret that now. My family was pretty left-wing. Some of the people in my family were like radically left, like would refer to white people as blue-eyed, red-headed devils, things of that nature. And as I got older, I actually started being really outspoken for BLM. I was supposed to be on a reality show teaching people how to be a BLM activist.
Thank you, Lubuzibet. Thank you so much. Thank you for the super chat. Said, hating people due to their position allows hatred to cross over race, gender, sex, religion. It allows people similar in every way to fight forever. Exactly. I mean, preach, brother. You said it better than I could ever have said it. I'll even leave it there so that anybody who wants to make super chats to know that I'm open to super chats. Okay.
Activist. At the time, I did a deep dive on BLM, and I started to realize all of these lies. So then I took a step back. I'm like, okay, what else am I being lied to about? And I started looking at the Democratic Party and questioning my own loyalty to being on the left.
I personally think both sides tend to be racist in different ways. I don't think the government is on the side of the people in general, and that's just me being, a radical.
When I was young, I used to jump for joy and say, oh.
That is true. Whether it's liberal or Democrat or whatever, that's why I say when it comes to the politics, they are all the same. I'm voting for Trump, I'm voting for this. When it comes down to it, for the most part, when it comes to the ideology part, you see the difference, right? When it comes to policies that they push, there's some difference, right? But beyond some of the policy differences, beyond some of the ideological differences that people who subscribe to the idea have, when you remove all of that away, those in those positions, they essentially support the same things. That's how I see it, though. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh yeah, Obama, black president, that's so amazing. He's the same color as me. But when I started to do more research, one of the biggest things I was confused about is, well, why is he a Democrat? What is a Democrat? I did more research about the Democrat Party, and sure.
This guy talks fast. Jesus Christ. Between him and Destiny, well, Destiny is a faster talker anyway.
You guys are going to pop off about the head saying, oh, there's a party switch in the Southern strategy and all these things.
Which is true.
Which you may say is true. I don't believe it is true at all. I understand, you may think I'm wrong.
You are.
However, one of the biggest questions I had was, why is Obama in the same party as the people that started the KKK, the same people that voted against the Civil Rights Act, the same people that are on the news talking about how black people aren't able to accomplish anything and need to be on welfare and need to be promoted with affirmative action and things of that nature.
But in all honesty, I don't think the crime of the KKK and all whatnot, and people that we are pro-slavery and stuff, should continue hanging on Democrats. I really don't think that represents fully everyone in the party. I don't think everyone in the party is stained and therefore racist because they believe in a party that at all points did something bad. I don't buy into that idea at all.
So, in terms of, I guess, of my political journey, I was raised conservative, actually. And then high school became, I guess, sort of apolitical. And then throughout college, and I guess just throughout my life since then, I think I guess you can call me a progressive, you can call me, you know, socialist, whatever you, but I guess that's, in the area of where I fall. You said that you were a Bernie fan in 2016, and then you transitioned to being, I guess, more conservative. I guess, I don't know, to me, Bernie Sanders, from what he said to what you think now, what was the shift?
For me, it was socialism, because back then I was a very broke college kid, and I just had this mentality that everything should be free, and I was feeling a bit entitled, like everything should be handed to me because I was black, because I was very much in that mentality.
My problem with socialism is that it does not solve the problem of incentive. That's the thing about socialism, is that it has never addressed the issue of incentive. If the government is going to provide everything for everyone and everybody is going to know their place in society, blah, 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 government is going to be in charge of every means of production and distribution, what is the incentive for the government to do the right thing? What's the incentive? Votes? That's one. Second is why private sector is able to provide a country with enough goods and services that they have the incentive of making profit. And you may be like, oh, that's just greed. Yeah, greed is a bad thing. True, but profit is a good thing. If someone is driven by profit, he's going to do a better job than someone who is just driven by votes. And we've seen it repeatedly over and over and over again. Socialism doesn't work. People who believe in socialism are believing in a fairy tale that does not take into account the human condition. Whether it be socialism or communism, they do not take into account the human condition. Socialism will only work when human beings can now be selfless and work for nothing, work with no reward. And to also work in a country, in a world where the government have every available information and know what is right for everybody, and can give to everybody everything they need, and can position people everywhere they need to be. None of that is possible. But it does not stop people from dreaming, So, socialism is for dreamers.
As I learned more about free markets, as I learned more about capitalism, I started to appreciate that much more. I started to appreciate small business much more, limited government, low regulations. I just started to like that much more. But I would say just more when it comes to economics, I don't agree with him.
Reparations are necessary.
When we talk about reparations, I think that doing reparations in the way that a lot of people think of it, where we just give it to black people, I'm not an expert on this, but I think it would be more income-based, and that in itself, like I said earlier, would disproportionately benefit black people, because if you recognize that they are disproportionately affected by a systemic injustice, then doing it on like a class level would uplift proportionally more black people than white people.
When these people start talking class, should they know that's Marxism? Are they aware that they're just Marxist? These people are just Marxist. Are they aware? Oh, we'll do it by class. We'll give it by class. You're just being a Marxist. Like this class difference. Oh, let's take money and give it to poor people. That's just Marxism speaking. And if you've ever like put two and two together in your head, you think what poor people need is just a handout. You just take money and give it to them, and then we've anyways. One thing, sometimes I just wish this talk about reparation. I just wish people can just go ahead and do it, right? Let's say every black person is going to get $50 million, or every poor person is going to get $50 million so that they can be equal, and they should just go ahead and do it. Hopefully, maybe they'll be able to manufacture money from wherever. Tax Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. Take half of their property and give it to the poor people. And I guarantee you, in 5 years, that money you took from Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and all those people will return back to them. And those people you gave 50 million will go back being poor. I just wish they can just do it so that people can realize that this is what we are pointing out, that you do not fix people's problem by giving them money. I just let them go ahead and do it. So I tell people, so that we can stop talking about this nonsense.
I think like mostly like black GIs that were left out of like the New Deal, for instance, that to be able to come back and as a white American, as a white veteran, to get a home loan and then build that generational wealth, you could not get that as a black American. So there needs to be, I think, reparations. I don't care really what form it comes from. I think free healthcare, free college, so that everyone has like an equal opportunity to educate themselves, to build a better life for themselves. So it's sort of like, and I think Germany is also a perfect model to follow. You know, by issuing, first of all, a formal apology, which we haven't even done that. But also just like donating to like different.
Jesus. I like that people's priorities are in order. Like, yeah, you need to issue a formal apology. Yeah, you're going to apologize. You that did not do anything. Like I always say when it comes to this apology nonsense. You that did not do anything is going to apologize to people who nothing was done to. Oh, Christ. And these people are serious. Sometimes when people say this and I'm like, these people are serious. That's the shocking thing to me, that you are serious. Like this thing you are saying, you really mean it. That is you give a formal apology. Back then in Germany, when the apology was made, it was made immediately after the Second World War. The people who you apologize to are people who actually suffered. You don't come back many years after, you're like, okay, now we are going to apologize. No. Even in Nigeria, there's something you would do where if you apologize to somebody, they'll tell you don't apologize. That moment has gone. The opportunity to apologize, that window has closed. It's over. It's bygone. Don't even apologize. It's done. That is as in that you are holding on to grudge like that. You're like apology help who? And then give reparations as form of health care. Okay. By all means, see, and this is one thing I like about every liberal agenda, every policy they want to push. I know they are impractical, but I want people to go ahead and do it because these people cannot understand terms like impractical and ineffective. These two terminologies are not things that their brain can understand. You need to demonstrate it. Like, is to demonstrate that, oh, this thing you're talking about is impractical. They will not understand it. This thing you're talking about is ineffective, will not solve the problem. They will not understand it until they see for themselves. But then again, we realize that these people are immune to reality. So I don't even know if they will even be able to see for themselves that this thing is not working.
Funds and, just I think a more equitable society striving for that is reparations in and of itself.
I have no problems with reparations if they had happened initially during the slavery or the civil rights movement or any of that. But to try and do that now logistically just doesn't really make any sense. And where would this money come from? We're in so much debt as a nation. Would I get this money? I'm biracial or triracial. Do mixed people get it? And do Irish people get reparations when they were indentured servants?
I think for reparations, if you can find specific instances of somebody being actually deprived of something, whether specific instances of the 40 acres and a meal promise, or whether you can find specific cases of Chinese people building railroads or Irish people or whatever, people being deprived of things, that's okay. But otherwise, yeah, it's a logistical nightmare. There's no possible way that we'd be able to do it well.
Yeah, America's unique because we have bent over backwards for decades now, putting minorities in a position of privilege. I feel like we have done so much to give back to the communities that were obviously wronged. And I agree with both of you. Had this happened a long time ago, I would understand it. If we had specific incidences that we could trace where people were just completely screwed over, I would respect it. But right now, I don't deserve a payment for something my great-great-great-great-grandparents went through. And I don't think that white people are responsible for paying that to me either.
I know we don't want to use the word virtue signaling, but it's sort of like a bribe for a vote in a way, at least in my opinion. In states like California, where they've been throwing around the idea of, oh, we want to pay out this much money to every black citizen in there, in this state, it's Are you serious? Because this is kind of like a joke, in my opinion.
I think that if we impose reparations now, I think it would rip America apart. I think that we're already separated enough as it is, and now you're going to have people walking around going, "You owe me money. You owe me money. I'm not paying you any money." It would just really rip us apart.
Giving somebody money doesn't mean anything if they don't know what to do with the money or how to handle the money. So if the primary issue in Black culture or with Black people is generational trauma, then maybe they need more therapy than they need money, honestly.
Which conservatives are also against.
Well, that's kind of my argument. Like, if there is like that, like generational trauma or whatever, like I think examples of like free healthcare, they could see a therapist and not be, fall into debt. And I think the argument of like the logistical nightmares of it, I think if we want to pay for something in this country, we usually find.
Oh, thank you. Chukwuigwe, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. He said liberal policies are not about helping Black people. It's about managing white guilt and virtue signaling that you are not racist. That's true. That's true. For the most part, that is it. Like, I want to show that I'm a good person. So if this is how to show that I'm a good person, then hell, I'm going to support whatever it is that you say I should support as a good person. You don't really care. You at the end of the day, you don't even care about those people. You just want to show yourself to be a good person. Well, yeah, so that's really true. That's 100% factual. And there's something this guy was saying that I wanted to react to. Let's go back a bit.
Conservatives are also against.
Well, that's kind of my argument. Like, if there is like that, like
This guy in the Joe Biden hat thinks everybody in a particular group are just a monolith. Like, there's no diversity in that particular group. We all agree on the same thing. All conservatives are against mental health. Like, really? It's just ridiculous. And then there's something else. Okay, the guy is about to say. Free healthcare. You use free healthcare to see therapists, okay? Oh, Jesus. Free healthcare, you use it as a free therapist. How to get rid of generational trauma? I'm not saying therapy does not have its place, especially when you have a good therapist, and there are not many of them. That's the truth. People will not want to point out that there are not many good therapists. Okay, but I'm not a huge fan of the profession, to be honest with you. I believe in having conversation with people, talking with people, interacting, and letting people know, okay, this is what I'm going through, this is how I feel. Having a support group is what I'm a huge fan of. I'm a huge fan of having a support group, people you can tell how you feel, people you can tell what is going on, people who can support you through it. I'm a huge fan of that than this therapy thing. I am suspicious of it, very suspicious. I would rather you go to a support group. Get a sponsor. The whole thing people do when they want to, get rid of a certain habit, And a support group does not necessarily have to be, all those AA meetings and what have you. It may just be your circle of friends or people who you go to for advice, the elders in your life. These are people who can help you through whatever you are dealing with. If you're a religious person, that can be your pastor. It can be an elder in your church, a deacon, just somebody who you meet and go to help, give you clarity. And in America, where people's relationship, normal human relationship has been reduced or is almost been replaced by so many nonsense. Now you now have people who are just indoors, relationship broken. They don't even have real relationship with real people in the real world. And now all they rely on is a therapist, a professional who is trained to do for them what a friend or a mentor or a spiritual leader can do for them. That's how I see this whole therapy thing. Because I always say to myself, and I always say to people who are like, therapy is good, therapy is great, mental health, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, my ancestors went through more hardship than I went through. How come they were able to go through all of that, and raise good children who went on to do good things, and we are able to create good households? And me in 2023, I cannot do any of those things. It's because my ancestors had a good support group. They had a good support system. They had advisors. They had people who were helping them, leading them along the way. Now in my time, relationship have this people as in normal human relationship have been reduced to phone screens and what have you. Human relationship is almost in a state of I don't even know how to describe it. And now because you don't have that real relationship, you are replacing it with therapy. That's my analysis of the whole problem. That's why I'm not a fan. I'm like, you go and see a therapist. I would rather have good friends, wise counsel. That is what I need. People who are wise. That's what you need in your life. You know. But of course, that is something the government can provide for you through universal health care that you'll use and go and see a therapist. And that will help you with your generational trauma.
Not be, fall into debt. And I think the argument of like the logistical nightmares of it, I think if we want to pay for something in this country, we usually find a way to do it, especially when it comes to the military. So, we pay for multi-billion-dollar jets all the time.
It's not the dollars, it's who's supposed to get them.
Not to attack progressives, but that is like the most progressive idea in the world. Is like I can see the headlines like reparations voted on in Congress to be paid in the form of free therapy for people in the hood. That just sounds like the funniest thing in the world. But
well, I also don't think it's gonna come directly from like white person to black person. Like, oh, your lineage affected his lineage.
It is though. Like in San Francisco, they were going to raise the average family or the average household in San Francisco was expected to pay $600,000 each with the $5 million per black person proposal that they had. And I used to live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was repulsed by that because you have so many homeless veterans on the streets, and they were going to give black people a home for as little as $1 just for being black. Mind you, slavery wasn't even in California. So why that was going to be the case, like I don't understand, but it's extremely unrealistic to think that the average family in San Francisco can afford that.
That's because Newsom wants to get reelected.
Okay, but you don't really care about homeless veterans, right?
Like you see how this guy he has this image of who conservatives are. And you don't. That stereotype, that idea you already have about conservatives, even when they are talking, he doesn't even listen to them. He just assumes this is your position. He's assuming that's your position. That's conservative position. And once you already assume that about people, everything they say, you already think, like I said, you already think of them as the devil. So you don't even want to hear them out. And what he's saying is accurate when it has to do with reparations. And like this, the guy said it's not supposed to be from white people to black people. It's supposed to be from Americans to Americans. So every American who is not even involved in the sin of slavery is going to pay for it by virtue of the fact that you're an American. Somehow you are now part of the problem and you must be part of the solution. This is the thing about reparation. Reparation is saying every American owes black people. Even the ones that did nothing.
You don't support
idea.
You don't know
I feel
me.
like all your arguments are ad hominem.
But you're here
Literally
as a
every
conservative.
single one ad
You're here as a
hominem.
conservative. So what policies do you support for homeless veterans?
There's ways to address,
Specifically.
for homeless in general.
That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say that we didn't find a middle ground in there.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's a great ending note.
White liberals have a savior complex.
Well, not all white people, but
Well, I gotta say, this is a shock. I never expected all four of you to just come forward and admit it, but you know what? I'm happy with these results.
I just think it's a lot of people, people, of the left, whatever, can kind of fall into that trap of thinking that, black people as a monolith.
you have everything you've been saying so far is a typical example of white savior complex. Let us help. 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 I'm not saying people should not help, but if everything you want to do is help, 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 maybe that's the definition of white savior complex. Helper.
Need to be saved as a whole.
I have no shame about it. I have a savior complex as an older brother, and I will save you whether you like it or not. So that's just me.
Well, it's definitely not, because a lot of us are really just exhausted of being viewed as our skin color. Because when you have this mindset that you need to save black people and we're just sitting here minding our own business and living our lives the way we want to, I don't know why it is that people feel this immense pressure to be so apologetic and just always trying to cater and coddle to black people when we just want to be treated like everybody else.
Like a
or equal
human
for
being.
a reason.
I think especially recently with a lot of riot stuff that's gone on or protest stuff that's gone on, people on the left tend to infantilize a lot of different types of protesters, and especially even talking to, some of the other black content creators I do content with, when you hear a lot of progressives come out and say, well, they don't have a choice but to riot or break into this store, or, well, they're stealing, these electronics or shoes for good reasons, you just don't realize it. I think a lot of people kind of look both ways, and it's a little bit weird that there's such a complex on the left to excuse like every single possible negative behavior from somebody, as long as they're a skin color that you're kind of in charge of protecting.
I find that very offensive.
Yeah.
I find it
Really
extremely, it upsets me to hear that, because we're just like you. We just have a different skin color, and to hear that you have to help me is offensive to me. I can do it on my own.
Well, we have to break down sometimes why these riots happen. MLK once said that riots are the voice of the unheard. So if you are to address...
He wasn't saying that riots are good. This is the thing, and they've used it every time. Riots are Martin Luther King was not saying riots are good. He was saying, listen, I am not in support of the riots, but I'm saying this to help you understand the riots. Yes, it is the language of the unheard. Listen, there are so many riots that have happened in Nigeria that I know it was bad. I've even criticized, heavily criticized. But I'm like, yeah, I get why this happened. I get what led to this. Even though I think this is really stupid and this should not happen, but I get what led to this. That was basically what MLK was saying. Listen, these riots are bad. These people are burning down their own cities. You understand? But there's probably something that made this happen. Right now, many of the riots that are happening, the reason why it is happening is not because people feel unheard. It's because people have been made to feel hopeless. So the reason why riots happened during the time of MLK is not the reason why they are happening now. If you want to make a statement to explain it, riots are the voice of the unheard will not be a perfect quote for what is happening. Riots right now in the West especially is the voice of people who have been made to believe that they have no hope. Exactly. When you feel there's nothing you can do to win in a system, you want to tear the system down. You want to destroy everything. That is what riots are today. So to use that old quote, it does not apply today. There are places in this world where it applies. People are actually protesting for things. Where a protest for a legitimate cause deteriorates into fighting and looting. I've seen it happen in Nigeria repeatedly. There was a good cause for the protest, but it ended up becoming a free-for-all. Robbers, people would hijack the whole thing and begin to loot and cause violence and inflict harm on others. I've seen it happen. But what I see in the West, even some of the protests are not in themselves legitimate. Like there's no good reasons for them. These are just based on media lies and propaganda. So that old quote is not applicable. This is for the people, especially in America, is not applicable. People have to have the wisdom to understand difference. Like what is happening now is not the same as what was happening then. Back then, black people didn't even have the right to vote. There was black-only schools, white-only schools. There was black-only restroom, white-only restroom. There was segregation back then. There's no segregation today. So how is riots today the voice of the unheard? Who are people who are not being heard? So that quote is no longer relevant to the situation today. There are countries where that is applicable. There are instances today in other parts of the world where that is applicable, but not in this scenario of Black Lives Matter tearing down building because of a policeman killing somebody. It's not enough reason for you to riot. When the majority of black people die in the hands of other black people.
The problem and stop the riots, you have to address the underlying inequality that has historically been pervasive. Even if you as individual people are doing fine and you don't want anybody else to get in the way of that, that's cool, and I'm not going to I'm not going to be the one to get in the way, but the disparities are undeniable.
So if you take pride in having like a white savior complex, what is it that you think that you're doing to save black people, and what is it that you think that you're saving black people from?
I am trying to make the world a better place through whatever means I can, and
But you're doing it on the backs of us.
You're trying to make the world a better. Yeah, this guy is all forms of annoying. This guy took the crown from destiny. That's not an easy feat.
I wouldn't say so.
Yeah, I actually do. I feel like you want to be a savior and you're using me to make yourself feel good. That's what I'm
How am I
hearing.
hurting you?
You're not letting me have my own voice. You're not letting me speak.
How? You're speaking now?
No,
You're cutting her off.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I have to.
Yeah. Well, what's happening? I mean, you're speaking right now. You're speaking right now in this particular setting. But what you're saying is, like, you took it back to riots and so forth, and it makes it seem like the only way that we as black people can have a voice is by riots, and then you need to come along and you need to say, okay, poor little black child, let me help you. That's offensive to me, and I feel like you're making yourself feel good about trying to help us.
Exactly.
I also think that, like, when we talk about damage, I think especially when it comes to a lot of the shoplifting stuff that's going on in certain cities,
It's
you get
happening
a lot of
in
white
black
people that live in
neighborhoods.
nice suburbs saying things like shoplifting is no big deal, that's fine, and then you'll catch YouTube videos of them later on being in a Walgreens in like a shoddy neighborhood, and they're like, man, why is the deodorant behind a locked case? It's very easy to sit behind a gated community and say, oh, well, it's not a big deal, they steal because they have to. Riots are the language of the unheard. I think people haven't read the full context of that quote. When MLK was saying riots were the language of the unheard, and you need to address the underlying condition, he wasn't condoning the rioting, he was just understanding it.
Obviously, there are a bunch of white people that feel they need to be a savior, but I think there's a difference between helping and saving. Like,
No. I think they are really the
save
same
black
thing.
people, but I would tremendously love to help and make sure
They are,
everyone has like.
in a great way, they are the same thing, and I understand that. They are in a great way, they are the same thing. There are some people that the best way to help them is not to help them. The best way to help them is just leave them alone. Just leave them. It's like a child who is learning to crawl and learning to walk, and as the child is taking his first step, you're holding the hand, you're doing all these things. You're like, hey, let him not fall. You are trying to help that child, but whatever it is you are doing is not helping the child. So the best thing to do is leave him alone. Let him get on his feet and try and walk on his own. There are children who, I've seen children in Nigeria who their parents bought stuff for them to get them to walk early. Get them some of this, stuff that they buy for children to help them to walk and stuff. And they give the children these things, and these children started walking late. So the aid that the parents gave to the children did not help them to walk early. They started walking late. Sometimes when you try to help people, that is you not helping them. The best way to help some people is to leave them alone. They will figure it out.
Equal outcome, or not equal outcome, but at least equal opportunity, which, in my opinion, I feel we do not have in this country.
This is awkward. Hi, guys. So I didn't step forward just because I don't want to broad brush all white liberals as having a white savior complex. I have experienced white liberals who do have that, and they're very unpleasant people. But I don't think every single white person who's a liberal or who is an activist for BLM or any of those things necessarily has a white savior complex. I think that there's a lot of white people who genuinely think that black people are oppressed and they want to help, and that's what they're told.
What it seems like to me, when most people have savior complex, regardless of whom they're trying to save, it's like they're taking real pain and real trauma and using that as a way to push this political agenda, but also to alleviate themselves of whatever guilt that they feel unnecessarily. Like, I don't know why a white person today would feel guilty for things that happened decades ago, let alone something that happened.
And even if you feel guilty, I'm not the one who's going to release you of that guilt. This is the thing about the white and black relationship in America. White people feel guilty, and to relieve themselves of the guilt, they look to black people. They are using black people. Black people feel hurt, and to vent, they're using white people. So it's a case of both of you need to fix whatever it is that you're feeling about yourself, whatever is going on with you. Fix it. It is not my problem, and I'm not supposed to help you. So.
Been centuries ago.
I've never seen a white person say, I personally feel guilty for slavery. Maybe
promise
they're
you
out
I
there, but I've never heard that.
Yeah, in second grade when they talk.
No. I've seen countless videos. There's even one I reacted to where they were asking for forgiveness, kneeling down and doing this this public display of shame, begging and for asking for forgiveness for slavery and discrimination. No, it was. You should go check my short collections. I did one about it. It happens. There's one I saw where they were literally, I think, kissing the boot of a black person as way of showing, I don't know, atoning for something that was done in the past. There are countless videos of that. If I go to TikTok now, I can bring a lot of them and show this guy.
Us about slavery, almost every kid in my classroom would spend their entire time looking at black kids in that classroom. How was I supposed to not think, wow, these people are feeling guilty for something that they have no involvement in and I have no involvement in?
Every kid in my classroom understood the context.
People hate feeling uncomfortable, and obviously you don't want to feel like the bad guy, and so I feel like it comes from a place of like, oh, well, like, let me make sure that I'm different and like I'm showing.
Yeah, but it's called virtue signaling. Let me show that I'm different. I'm the good guy. I'm the good white guy,
You that I want to like help you, but it comes across like I think it can land very poorly.
I'll tell you what, stop it. Stop it. Because what happens is when you put yourself as the white savior, what you do is you elevate yourself above the black person because you feel then like you have to save us. So just stop it.
It's dehumanizing. That's how it's dehumanizing. It's degrading. The mental is degrading. You are degrading a set of people. You are reducing them to helpless chaps who can never help themselves. It's degrading. Seeing people like that, people who need help, is degrading. Who constantly need your help. There are people who need help on it. Yeah, there are people who may need your help for a particular moment. But to constantly see people who are in constant need of help is degrading. It is better to say to people, you can help yourself. It is more uplifting. It is you saying these people have agency. These people have charge over their life. These people can fix their situation. Than to look at them and say, they need help. They must be helped.
Everybody regular and normal, just like I would treat you regular and normal, you treat us regular and normal rather than trying to save us.
I just got one thing I wanted to bring up earlier about taxes, because you were saying that you had your job and you were talking about how like you get the tax every time and you're like seeing your tax go up. I worked in nursing homes in 2020 COVID. The last thing that was on my mind when I watched 60 and 70-year-olds on their deathbeds suffocating to death was taxes. I was worried about health care.
This guy is very funny. Yeah, he watched 60 and 70-year-old people pass away. Yeah, they are old. I know I'm not supposed to say this, but sorry, maybe 60 is not old, but 70 is kind of old, And maybe what killed them is lockdown policies that was implemented in New York, for example, by, a Democrat politician who goes by the name of Andrew Cuomo. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe it wasn't that people were not paying enough tax. Why are you taking it out on the woman who just wants the government to get off her back and not take too much of her money? Is she bad? Does that mean she does not care about grandma? It's just ridiculous. Because I don't want to pay so much taxes, therefore I don't care about 60, 70-year-olds that are dying. And you who was working there and you don't care about taxes. Of course you don't care about taxes.
I didn't give a shit about taxes in that time. So when I go to work every day, that's what I see. That's what I want to fix.
I see you once again elevating yourself above the rest of us, and particularly at me, a white man elevating himself above a black person.
He called me a bootlicker.
Sorry.
He called me a bootlicker.
Oh no, I triggered them all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Not
Look at the person who was shouting at all of them, and then he's saying that he triggered them. This guy is a walking, breathing contradiction.
chilling, buddy.
So what I hope comes out of this
chilling.
conversation is that we're all Americans, and because we're all Americans, we know that America has a bunch of problems, and I think every person here wants to solve the problems, and I think everybody is bringing what they have to the table with their ideas on how to get us to unify. This kind of stuff, right? But you got something in there. Hopefully, I mean, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you have something in there that's redeeming about you that would bring all of Americans together. So I hope that we end on the note of American.
UNITY.
I would like to say we're all made in the image of God, and so we're all have our inerrant worth just because we're made in His image, and we should treat each other as fellow image bearers, not
as
just
people.
By the color of our skin. I mean, as Martin Luther King said.
He also did not like capitalism.
I think something that's really challenging, I've definitely been guilty in the past of throwing around the Uncle Tom word. I used to be hardcore progressive. I'm still relatively progressive. But something that I've learned as time has gone on is being a white person isolates you from a lot of the different types of racial struggles that people go through. And those struggles can take a lot of different forms. Not just, you know, was my ancestor a slave, and not just is my culture bad, but sometimes in the way that, you know, people grow and develop, right? Like, am I actually choosing these political beliefs because they mean something to me, or is it because I'm black or my parents are black? If I speak a certain way, am I betraying my race? If I am a political orientation, am I a bootlicker? And I think that it's important when you're coming from a progressive point of view to understand that even though there are conservatives that are black people, you have to treat them as individuals and not just come at it with this like, you're black, you're a conservative, therefore here's like 6 or 7 different slurs that I can use against you, but they're approved because I happen to be on the progressive side.
And that is the gospel. That is the gospel. I mean, everybody should give a round of applause to Destiny. I mean, that's why I said he really exceeded my expectation. Maybe I should listen to Destiny more. He may have like real nugget of wisdom every once in a while. I should not be quick to dismiss him. So yeah, we've gotten to the end, and Chandler was really, is it Chandler that is his name now? Alec, not Chandler. Alec was really, I mean, angry at people because they wanted tax cuts. They don't want to pay more tax, you know. Angry at people because they don't want open borders. That means you are bad. Angry at people for various reasons. I mean, these are the same people who are like, America have a healthcare crisis. Okay, we have a healthcare crisis, and you're like, let's bring in more people into the country. If you bring in more people into the country, how are you going to fix the healthcare crisis? More people is not those more people. Not like they are coming in with like skyscrapers and jobs that you are going to create. These are people who are going to come in and leech on the system. Well, I don't even understand the whole helping people mindset, because how many of them are you even going to be able to help? It's just crazy. But that is that about that. Guys, it's been a wonderful live stream, I believe, and we've made it past 2 hours. It was a blast. I had a lot of fun, you know, listening to these guys. It was spicy at some point. It was insightful at other points. It was, you know, it gave us opportunity to talk about various things. Gave me opportunity to really address certain things that I think are race relations, and I want Americans to understand that every part of the world deal with the issue of race. Race is not a unique American thing. Every person, every part of the world, as long as you don't have people of the same genus in your, you know, you're going to always deal with the issue of people from different ethnicities. You're always going to deal with that. That ethnic divide is always going to be there. Nigeria has that, you know, and as a Nigerian, I can tell you, being heavily fixated on race or ethnicity or identity is detrimental, is destructive, it's not helpful. It has led to many of the things that this country is suffering today. And that's the truth. Okay. corruption in Nigeria. Many of you people hear that Nigeria is corrupt. Nigeria is corrupt. One of the reasons why Nigeria is corrupt and the government can get away with corruption is that people themselves are not united in fighting against corrupt politicians. You can have a corrupt politician in Nigeria who people will be fully in support of because he's from their tribe. And I really hope that those in the West will look at the countries that are trying to emulate them and realize that they are slowly becoming like the very countries who want to become like them. You know. So that's how we close for today. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and until we meet again. Well, before we leave, let me just acknowledge some of the comments here. This is from Kylie. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. He said, "I love your content and the message you spread. Thank you so much." This is from Lil Buzibet. Said Americans need to travel more. Yeah, that's good. And also travel with an open mind. Travel to learn. Don't travel and become a nuisance wherever you go, because Westerners are used to doing that a lot. This commenter said, "I love your content. It's nice to see a new perspective. It's my pleasure." Something I want to do with my channel is to focus a lot more on kind of like African news and African stuff. And if you see me post about that, please like and share. You know, let people be aware of some of the things happening in this part of the world, so you understand where we Africans are coming from, and you can learn from our stories, right? I believe that, you know, learning about other people is learning their stories, and you can learn something from there. I'm not a fan of creating awareness. This is 2023. I don't think you can create awareness in 2023 because people are easily distracted. So I'm not a huge fan of creating awareness. But I'm a huge fan of making a statement, telling stories, true stories, and letting people see that, you know, you can learn something from these stories and you can use it in your country and understand how the world is and how the world works, and, you know, what various people are going through. When you understand what various people are going through, you are appreciative, and sometimes you can even learn how what you are doing in your own country is also affecting people in other countries. You know, and that's one thing I think Westerners don't really realize, is how much of what they do in their country affect people in poor countries. So it's my hope to kind of shed light on some of these things. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing, and I hope to get your support, your full support, as I've always gotten. What else? This is from Contour. He said, "Go to Belgium. People are fantastic." I have no doubt about that. This is from Rune Rose. He said, "Overseas flight what? Why can't I pronounce that word? Overseas flights are outrageously expensive, but my best bet is going to Uganda for annual sanctuary walk for 6 months. It's the cheapest." Well, that's great. That's great. It's good to hear that. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been nice hanging with you guys. And until we meet again, do have a very wonderful day or night. And peace.